Well, good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Richard Cruz, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is Wing Commander Stephen Laredo. As always, we welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial. If you're able, I invite you all to please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. If you're able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Second Lieutenant John Oliver Ethell. John Ethell was born in South Africa in March 1896, the eldest son of Alfred and May Ethell's large family. John's parents were born in England, but had married in Cape Town, where his father Alfred was working as an accountant. Alfred served during the Boer War and brought his family to Australia within 2 years of the war ending. The family lived in Melbourne for about 18 months before Alfred made the decision to enter the church. The family then moved to Queensland, where Alfred became the first student trained at the Brisbane Theological Centre. The family moved around with Alfred's job, and young John was educated through a mixture of state schools and private tuition. He went on to work as a teacher at the Laidley South State School, and although his father would say later that his ultimate intention was to enter the church. John Ethell, who was a prominent member of the Laidley Rifle Club and a member of the Laidley branch of the Church of England Men's Society, was accepted for service within the Australian Imperial Force in August 1915, after having been turned down at least once because of a heart condition. He underwent a period of training in Australia before returning home for his final leave. On that visit, the Church of England's Men's Society held a special meeting at which Ethell was presented with the gift of a handsome wristlet watch from his fellow members. Private John Ethell left Australia in November 1915 with the 6th Field Company engineers on board the troopship Ceramic. He was first sent to Egypt, where he spent 2 months with the medical corps details of the engineers. And in March, he was sent to France. But after only a few weeks, his right knee became severely inflamed, and he was forced to go into hospital in England, spending 2 months in a hospital in Northampton. After several more months in convalescent camps and training depots, Ethell was ready to return to the 6th Field Company engineers. In November 1916, he was billeted near the battalion of a good friend, Roland Secombe. He went to visit him, but he found that Private Secombe had been killed in action. Ethell wrote, "The corporal said Rolly did for 7 or 8 Germans before he was lost sight of. What a glorious death, fighting for king and country. If I have to die, let it be a similar death." Ethell served with engineers throughout the bitterly cold winter of 1916 and 1917. But in April 1917, he transferred to the 23rd Battalion. Shortly afterwards, he was promoted to second lieutenant. In May 1917, the 23rd Battalion took part in the Second Battle of Bullecourt. Although it captured all of its objectives, the 23rd Battalion suffered its heaviest casualty rate of any single day at Bullecourt. Ethell was wounded by shell fragments in both arms and a leg and was evacuated to hospital in England. He was hospitalised in Wandsworth, London, before being discharged to convalesce at Perham Downs. Second Lieutenant John Ethell returned to his battalion from England in late August 1917. 38 days later, his battalion was in the front line, preparing to take part in the Battle of Brincinda Ridge. On the 3rd of October, artillery fired a series of practice barrages in preparation for the next day. The Germans retaliated, firing a heavy bombardment on the 23rd Battalion's position. Second Lieutenant John Ethell was killed. He was 21 years old. Although Ethell's body was buried and a photograph of the grave was sent to his father, the location of his grave was lost in later fighting. Today, his name is commemorated in the Menin Gate among the more than 54,000 men who died in Belgium and have no known grave. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour at my right, amongst almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. A photograph of his name listed on the Menin Gate Memorial is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Second Lieutenant John Oliver Ethell, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
If you're able, please stand for the reading of the ode, the sounding of the last post.
They shall not grow old, as we who are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes this evening's last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.